Thank you. And thanks, Zach and Callan, for coming here from Sanara MedTech. So Sanara MedTech is an interesting company. It's a wound care company. Their primary product is Celerate, which is a type of powder that you use to heal wounds. They primarily sell into the surgical market, so after you get a hip replacement, a knee replacement, something like that, you put these powders and the gels that they sell into your wounds to help the wounds heal faster and to prevent surgical complications. But we'll get into all these products throughout the presentation. What makes Sanara interesting that I know Zach and Callan won't talk about themselves because they're too modest is the quality of the management team is really high. So Sanara as a concept sort of started in 2017 when Ron Nixon, who runs a very successful private equity company, bought a controlling stake in what was before Wound Management Technologies, now has been renamed Sanara. And he's a really successful investor and businessman in the wound care space. He was a founding director of LHC Group, which is the biggest wound care facilities operator in the US. That just sold to United Health for $5.5 billion. And he's invested and started and sold a bunch of other wound care companies in this space. So he's had a lot of success. And he got involved in 2017 when the stock was at $3 a share, and he bought 40% of the company. And now today the stock is at $35 a share, and he still owns 40% of the company. So they've done very successfully since then. They think there's a lot of growth ahead. And Ron sort of oversees the capital allocation side because of his private equity background, whereas Zach, who's here with us today, has done all of the actual legwork to do the operational side of the growth of this company and created the vast majority of its value. So Zach joined in 2016 or 2017, I think, as well. Yeah, as VP of Surgical for this company, managing the Celerate growth. And back when he joined, Celerate was selling $5 million a year. And fast forward to today, Celerate is selling upwards of $5 million a month. So sales have grown over 10x, almost entirely organically, and Zach has led that whole process and created a lot of value for this company. And now they're starting to sell new products, upselling to Celerate. They have a new wound care division that they want to open up and sell the same products in a different market. And there's a lot of different stuff going on, and it's a very exciting time for this company. So without stealing too much of the presentation, I'd like to pass it over to Zach to present on Sanara.
Thank you very much. Well, that was a great introduction and really very complimentary, so thank you so much. And Ian, thanks for having us, and MicroCap Club, thanks for all the support. Excited to talk to you today about Sanara. But first, I'll just tell you a little story about how it came to be for me. So I had been with HealthPoint, very fast-growing wound care company. Kind of started in the 90s, ran through the early 2000s, got acquired in 12 by Smith & Nephew. Came up through that company in leadership, sales, et cetera. And in the acquisition to Smith & Nephew, they promoted me into leadership positions throughout the country. And when I saw the product, I did a lot of interviews because I was looking to expand my leadership and be a little bit more like what I am today. And if you've been in a big company, it's hard. It's a lot of kind of climbing the ladder, aligning to the right people, et cetera. And what I saw was a pure opportunity with an unbelievable product. At the time, it was Celerate. And Celerate, at the time, Michael, your great memory, about $5 million, kind of declining. But we saw that opportunity, and the surgeons couldn't say enough good things about the product. So I was sold. I saw the opportunity. In my mind, I had the model of what we were going to try to implement. And so I'll talk a little about that today and the progress. But that's kind of a cool thing, because at the time, we didn't know a lot, but we knew the product worked. And then over time, we've just built and built and built and built, and you'll see kind of the output of that. Am I advancing? All right. Got it. Yeah, thank you. So disclaimers, we got to do that, obviously. Won't read all that. Talking about the company, our product offering and opportunity just to start with, I think it all starts with our accomplished sales team. When we put this together, part of the model was, can we get cornerstone people, great salespeople that can create and build markets? And can they leverage people that are already in the case? Those are the 1099s that we leverage. And that's what we've done. We've got an unbelievable team. I had a conversation this morning, and I think anybody who would look them up on LinkedIn, you'd be like, wow, those are some amazing resumes, and you can see the results are driven by them. A lot of credit there. And the results are in the top right there. So 60 million over the trailing 12-month revenue, and then 63% growth, 23 over 22 for the quarter. And we're now expanded out to 33 states. These products are very promotionally responsive. So if we put people in, they get sold. And so, we're in a very planned, very strategic expansion with these highly accomplished salespeople. We've also tried to put together a bag, selling bag of products that allow you to sell multiple in a case. So you have efficiency through the sales team, both the directs and the indirects, the 1099s. And then we've also tried to create significant greenfield opportunities. In other words, front run, gain system approval, get GPO approvals, and allow those people to go do what they do well, which is find doctors to use it and sell it. And you can see the numbers to the right there. 3,000 total hospitals today are approved, 950 that we actually sell to. So our job is to close that gap of 2,000 approximately. The product offerings you see are very intelligently put together. We didn't just wake up one day and say, well, we ought to do this. We actually thought a lot about this. We examined the cases we were in with Celerate, and what we saw were these different opportunities for more. Can my guy sell more things in that case? So things in soft tissue, you can see those. We'll go through those in just a minute, don't worry. And then bone fusion. Every time we're in these soft tissue cases, the doctor's fixing a bony problem, almost every time. So to me, that stack of bone stuff standing over there, and I was in a lot of cases following all this and learning it, and you'd see a stack of bone products sitting over there that somebody's selling. Sometimes it was our rep, our 1099 rep. So I wanted them to sell for us. So that's what we did here is we found really two types of products. We'll go through this on the next slide, so I'll go ahead and fast forward to that. We'll jump down to that just because I'm on bone fusion. So looking at the bottom here, just to kind of describe to you, the plan here is biform, synthetic, highly moldable, very differentiated in the space, and it's very attractive to doctors that like that type of product. It's very preference in bone biologics, or bone fusion, I should say, because that is not a biologic, that's a synthetic. The other two are your biologics. They're both allograft derived, means they're from cadavers, and then they've created, one is a puck, that's Actogen. Used to be known as Amplify, we're changing the name to Actogen. That's an inductive bone matrix. Every lot gets verified for inductivity. And that's a unique thing about that product. It's also resists irrigation. These are very wet surgeries, a lot of blood. You don't want that thing to wash away. So that's why that one's important. Allocyte, syringe-based, cellular. It comes in a frozen format, and it lives in a class of cellular bone. We've had that for a while. That's a very hot product. Hard to process, hard to qualify the donors. We'll talk more about that in a little while, but that's been a little bit of a back order product for us. And I'll just finish the bottom row. Surgical cleanser coming out just shortly is the BioSurge product. Again, a huge compliment to the bag. Every time they go into surgery, they're going to clean the field somehow, and every time there's a kind of a protocol. Every few minutes, they have to irrigate that space to keep it clean, to reduce chance for infection. And when you have a medicated antibiotic product or a product that kills bacteria, you'll use that regularly throughout the case. Typically at least 1 liter, which is what that bag shows, but maybe up to 3 liters in certain types of cases. You can imagine like a trauma, somebody falls off a motorcycle and now they've got to irrigate all that road rash. That's a great product for that. All right, now let's go back to the star of the show, Celerate, hydrolyzed collagen. That thing built the company. It continues to grow very well, extremely differentiated. It's the only hydrolyzed surgery product out there, powdered, and it's a very tiny powder. Each granule is 1/100th the size of native collagen. Hydrolyzed collagen breaks down much faster than native collagen. That's the main thing. So native collagen takes a while to break down. It doesn't work very quickly. This works very quickly. So if I'm a surgeon and I want my wound that I just made on this patient to heal quickly because all the disease states that the patient has, great product to complement my outcome. And that's what everything in here does, right? It's complementing the outcome. I'm going to spend a lot of money to do the surgery, to place the hardware. Hardware is expensive. The time in the OR is expensive. I don't want to redo that surgery. So we're going to put things in this bag that help the surgery be successful. Fortify is a family of products from Cook Biotech. They are small intestine submucosa. It's a part of the pig from porcine. And it's a highly vascularized piece of tissue that's been decellularized, and it can be used for the repair graft, is implantable, and can wrap tendons, can fill deficits, whatever they choose, but it's implantable. And then the flowable item is also extracellular matrix, great for filling cavities. It's got more substrate and matrix so that cells can migrate in, attach, and regrow, and cell rate's very complementary to it. So you could use both in the case. And Texogen, that's an amnion. That's a very fast-growing area of medical and surgical is amnion. And the reason is because you can use it anywhere on the body. It's homologous. So homologous use, it comes from a human, can be placed in a human, as long as you're not differentiating and changing the product. It has to be minimally processed, which is what that is, and it's multi-layer. And so surgeons use it as coverings for adhesion barriers, but also for wound overlays. So very complementary there. And again, you could literally use every one of these, probably one bone fusion. You could use BioSurge, and you could use any of the top row together. Playing a big market, $7.3 billion, and it's made up of the types of products you see there below, just adding the three groups together. This is off of the Smart Track data that we buy, and it's really driven it's very fast growing. We all know aging population, cardiovascular disease is a contributing factor to wounds, or delayed healing, diabetes, delayed healing, obesity, delayed healing or no healing. So what we've added in these products is a way to help that local environment to aid in healing. We also are going to talk a little bit later on the value-based care component of our plan, of our strategy. And the idea is to tie all this, the surgical component, out to the community, because not everything heals. Not everything is perfect. You come in with a big giant wound, they do the right things to debride it. It may still go to the community settings and still need help. And we see that. We see a lot of recurrence. We call them the frequent flyers in wound care. And so we want to help those types of patients. And a connected system in a value-based setting would be really important. I'll show you more about that in a moment. The last 3 years have been significant. If you follow us, you've seen we've had a strategic plan to grow and acquire. And we've had 3 really significant acquisitions. First was Rochelle in 21. That same year we launched the Cook products in a partnership. 22, Sendia Biologics, we bought them. And that was intentional they'd already created what I envisioned, which was this idea of a multi-set of products that help the surgeon get the surgery to go well. And so we just bought that in, and now we're spreading that across the US. 23, we just did this. Acquired the collagen assets. So now we control our own destiny on that. We'll talk more about that in a moment. Got a major national GPO. That's the first GPO that we've signed. Big time increase in approvals. Allows us to go out and hunt and get the doctors on board. We got our BioSurge clearance, and soon we'll have product in hand. And all that feeds into what and the team, I give a ton of credit to the team. I think any company would be crazy not to say it's about the people, but it is. I think the first speaker said that too, and I totally agree. The metrics-driven expansion of facilities. So we don't expand just to expand. We want to know there's a key target, and then we put people there, and we do that with deployment, and we expand based on approval. I don't want to put somebody in a blank area and they just drive around all day and try to figure it out. Product portfolio, that expansion, you saw that, by design. We're going to continue to do strategic M&A as it makes sense to do what we're trying to do, which is complement outcomes and reduce costs. And in R&D and commercialization, Rochelle's really central to that, and they've done a great job. It's something we've done a great job, I think, to integrate them and get them going towards the direction we're running. So some key developments, BioSurge, I mentioned that. Again, very differentiated product in a class of about 3 products that are really meant to cleanse the wound, get rid of the biofilm, and allow the wound to heal naturally, and people don't walk out with surgical site infection. The acquisition of the collagen business allows us to obviously reduce manufacturing costs, effectively eliminates the royalty that's paid, and it gives us the full rights to develop what we want to in the collagen space now. And then you have the GPO, obviously that makes a ton of sense, so now we can send our people where those hospitals exist. And this is the last slide, but I think it's worth talking about. People ask me a lot of times about this strategy. Number one, look at the size of the market, $36 billion in what is today a very fragmented, reimbursement-driven pay for non-performance for that matter, just reapplications, they pay and pay and pay. This is based on value-based care. So if you perform, then you get paid, and we're going to capitate the amount you pay. And what we're doing is we're putting together 3 pieces: products, technology, and the delivery of that. And you can read the slide, but essentially we've got some dressings, the bio that I just walked through, and then you've got point-of-care imaging, the diagnostics that we bought through Precision Healing, as well as the Pixelr piece, the patient monitoring, patient education, engagement, and then the back-end system to capture all that data. And then our virtual care coordination, which we're continuing to develop as well, and a network of traveling wound providers that would sort of franchise this out and help us create the noise to move this whole idea. So what we're going to be targeting is entities bearing risk for populations such as payers, health systems, and primary care networks. And we believe that there's a $5.5 billion opportunity that's taking 15% off of that $36 billion total annual spend for Medicare, Medicaid, and employer. So we think that's a really significant opportunity. And again, it's based on some demographic things. Aging population. There's not much wound care expertise typically. Spiraling wound care costs. You get these frequent flyers that, man, they just ring the bell. There's a whole bunch of care provided to them to get them to healing. And we think by creating a package, we can do that much more efficiently and more cost effectively. And so there is a very big demand for value-based models. With that, I think I'm real close to time. Good job. So thank you for your time. Really appreciate it. And I'll answer questions from Michael now, I believe.
Well, thanks for that presentation, Zach. It went over a lot of the questions that I had, so I'm going to pick out the ones that you didn't cover in that comprehensive presentation. But maybe to start, I think you touched on this a little bit, but I want to hear more about your background at HealthPoint and Smith & Nephew and what you did there, because something special about Sanara, I think, is that you've hired a lot of your colleagues in the past, these people from HealthPoint that have helped grow that to an $800 million exit to Smith & Nephew and then had a lot of success there. And they've also come to Sanara. And these don't seem like the type of people that change jobs for a 30% pay raise or something like that. They're changing because you're there, their colleagues are there, you're talking about all these really great products that you have and the vision that you're building. So it'd be great to hear more about that and the value of the sales force in this company, because I think that's pretty unique.
Sure. Yeah, so prior to HealthPoint, so I kind of started my career in market research and then call center. Before that was a call center. And so it was kind of interesting just kind of how my careers weave together and all these little skills that you learn along the way ultimately help you a ton when you become in this position I'm in now. And when I got to HealthPoint, medical was really getting hot, really fast growing company. And I had kind of interviewed a bunch of people, like a lot of people do during getting interviewed. And I found that HealthPoint was a real mover shaker, great trainer of people. They had really impacted this guy who I talked to, who was working for Medtronic. He said, my best people, bar none, are from HealthPoint sales-wise. And they would hire that young, hungry, 2-year out of college type person, train them up, put them to work, and they'd go sell. And that group, of course, aged up with me. And so when I got this role, I had a list of 20 people that I felt like should be my first targets. And we didn't have the money, so I hired a couple. I got what I could and put them in markets where I knew we could make impact quickly. We didn't have a lot of approvals. We had very few. And all those approvals were driven from the ground up. I know a surgeon. Surgeon is willing to stand up for us to the hospital. And it's no easy feat. If you've ever been in healthcare, there's a thing called a value analysis committee. And it gets harder every year, and it's very challenging for any company. And what they look at is, do you have evidence? And what's it cost? And who wants to use it? And how much? And so forth and so on. And then it's a negotiation, and we try to figure out if we can get in. So HealthPoint was good at that. They were very good at that. And so I knew those people could do that here and do it from the ground up. So we started that way, and a few people selling direct. We had a few standing distributors. They were already using a 1099 model. And those 1099s, we went and vetted. I met every one of them. And I removed a lot of them. And then we backfilled that space, kind of cleared the deck, if you will. And then we went and found from the surgeons directing us who are the best 1099s, who could carry our products. And that's really how it got built. And then, to talk just about the people, you're exactly right. I mean, it was, I think my first 7 hires had all been reps of the year from various companies, not just HealthPoint. I hired a guy, Seth Yan, who's now our president of commercial, who is just significantly talented, a tremendous business owner that I knew from, when I was younger. And I always knew if I had an opportunity to bring a guy like that on, I would. And I taught him the medical just like you would at HealthPoint, and he learned it so fast, was incredibly effective, and then ball started rolling.
And I think something special about the wound care market that's a little bit different than other markets is like you're not selling a chair and then like somebody wants a chair and they just come buy it from you because you're cheaper or something like that. Surgical wound care products are very high touch. So, like I think you've said before, like the 1099 or the rep that you have is literally handing the products to the surgeon to use during the surgery. And without that high touch, connection between these two people, without the relationship, it's hard to sell product, to break into that space at all. So it's really critical to have the right reps and the right people in this industry.
That's exactly right. Yeah, the understanding of a hospital and how it works and the touch points, and I always talk about managing a hospital relationship. It isn't just the surgeon. It starts just like a lot of businesses. You have to prep the whole facility, so you need to work the supply chain. They kind of hold the purse strings. They're going to decide what gets in the computer so they can order it. You've got to work through the clinical tower, surgeons, nurses, scrub techs, circulators. These are all people that have a part in that surgery and the operative event, and you've got to make sure they know what the product's for. When they get challenged, they can quickly answer. This is why it's significant and important to what we do as a surgical team. But yeah, you're exactly right, and if you don't have people that know how to do that, it's really challenging.
And then, I know you had the big slide of all the products that you sell. You have Fortify, Texagen, Allocyte, all of these different things. But right now, the vast majority of sales, maybe 80 to 90% plus, is driven by Celerate. And, that's the business that you've built over the last 5 years. But now you're starting to sell all these new things. You acquired Sendia like a year or so ago, and then you've had the opportunity for some time to upsell those products, and it sounds like that's going well. So I'm curious, what does it take to upsell new products that you've in-licensed or acquired to existing Celerate customers, and what has the uptake been like so far for the products that you acquired with Sendia or you in-licensed with Cook, and how have those performed relative to your expectations?
Sure. So the Celerate's a great lead product. I mentioned it's able to be used across the continuum. Surgery, you could use it on open wound surgery. Every specialty in the hospital that cuts can absolutely use Celerate. So what that gives you is a voice to everybody. If you get one hospital, there could be 40 or 50 doctors that really would have a utilization availability for Celerate. So that's a really important thing. But then you move over to like a bone fusion, or some of the other products talk about bone fusion. Bone fusion is really significant only to a few orthopedic-based specialties. So that's going to be your spine, orthopedics, podiatry, orthotrauma, a few of those. And, folks that are going to deal with like a fusion event, like I want to fuse your spine because you have back pain, or you broke your foot in a motorcycle. I go back to the motorcycle accident. They may break the foot and now they got to, fuse the calcaneus. So you're going to use an adjuvant to help that happen, and that's what those bone fusion products do. So, you have to know that environment and some of what those procedures are. That's important, and you have to prep your doctor on why that particular product is needed for that. And then I think you got to get it in their hands. Those products are very tactile, so bone fusion is kind of unique in that respect. And then if you look at the top products, it's really, again, it's Fortify TRG. That's an implantable product, solves a problem, so you got to identify that. So I tore my Achilles tendon. I needed fortification. That's why we came up with the name Fortify that injury, and we're going to wrap the tendon so it's stronger when it repairs. Because otherwise it just stitches together, and they're just stitching it together like this in a very complicated manner. Well, now I can wrap that, and it just makes sense, and the doctors see it right away. Plus, it reduces adhesion. Texagen does the same. It doesn't provide the strength, but it does prevent adhesion of like other tissues to that muscle. So you get full rehab on it. Your full range of motion returns. So things like that are really important. Was there anything else to that question I missed?
Yeah, so I'd be curious, like a concrete example, like if you're currently selling Celerate to a doctor, is it relatively easy for you to just give the rep also BioSurge, also Fortify, and then have them hand it all together as a package? Or is there a little bit more to it than that? Well,
I think you have two customers. You have the distributor, the 1099 agent, and I just want to clarify that language. So distributor, I say that a lot. I'm talking about somebody who just reps our products. We don't have somebody we sell it to and then they handle it. They just are representatives to the product. So 1099s is probably a better term. So you got to train them. They're our first sale. Make sure that they appreciate the benefits of the products and how they can augment or, kind of complement what they're doing with their metal. Most of them all sell metal, usually, knee hardware for replacements, revision hardware, hips, spinal implants, et cetera. Knee, for like trauma, it's going to be screws and plates and so forth. So show them why that matters. And so if you think about all that space, they've really gotten price compressed. Those joints and metals and all those things, the hospital's allowing 3 or 4 of those in per building. So those companies are in or out. And so now, not only that, the hospital says, we won't pay that, we'll pay this. And that's it. And so they just got crushed. So it used to be, I don't know, 15 grand for a implant. Now we're talking 3,500. So that person who used to sell and make a lot of money is making a lot less money. And so they want other products to complement and put more money in their pocket. So that's the ancillary world of products that we subscribe to. And I believe will be a big part of the future of healthcare because the hospitals have a stake too. It's called a bundle or a 90-day global. And what that means is they eat the next surgery. So if it doesn't go well, shoot, I got a re-surgery for basically nothing, I have to shift a surgeon or, there's ways around it, but typically that they got to think about how do we make this go well. So that's what you have to do. And then these products, yes, they go completely together for any of those surgeries. And there's always 2 at least that would be appropriate for a surgery.
Great. And then you also mentioned some of the deals and the M&A that you've done in the past. And, part of the reason that I was saying the capital allocation of your company is really successful is because all of this stuff is like very obvious multiples. You acquired Zendia for, I think, like 6 times my estimate of earnings. You just bought out the royalties for Celerate for 5 times run rate earnings, and that's still growing rapidly, and you got a whole host of other IP with that. I'm curious what role future deals like M&A, partnerships, JVs, anything of the sort play in the future of Sanara, and what kind of stuff is in the pipeline? Like, are you working on some really big deals? Like, is it small tuck-ins, like one product at a time? Like, can you just elaborate on that a little bit?
I can't fully, but I would say that, we just don't disclose all that. It's something obviously from a competitive advantage, it wouldn't be in our best interest. But what we are always open to looking for deals, and as said it on the slide, I think it's an important part of who we're going to be in the future is to look at different opportunities, small, large. These just happen to be small. It wasn't like we were looking for small. But there's nothing that I would give you a blueprint for. I know what the strategy should look like and where we should be going. So we're going to look at everything that would complement the outcomes of procedures, but also connect you back to the community.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then on that community aspect, maybe my last question, then we'll open it up to the audience. You have these 2 strategies, and I think this is a little confusing to new investors looking at the story because that almost the entire current sales strategy is with the surgical products and selling Celerate and the ancillary products into the surgical setting. And then you also have this wound care strategy where you have a diagnostic that you're trying to get approved, you have a telehealth partnership, you have a JV with InfuSystem. You have a lot of stuff going on there that's in the works and about to be, create value, hopefully. Can you sort of elaborate on why these 2 strategies are different and why, even though these 2 markets, you're trying to sell the same products and IP from my understanding, but it takes 2 different approaches, and can you elaborate on why that is?
Wound care versus surgical?
Yeah.
So I think wound care, massive market potential as you see, and it is somewhat, my assertion is that it's a little bit broken, and what I said earlier in the talk was, they pay for almost non-performance. And I don't think any doctor tries not to heal. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that the reimbursement today provides more per application or per event that you see a patient. And likewise, that'd be true for Medicare all the way across. So there's HCPCS, which pays a product amount for that product, and there's procedural, same thing. So you're getting paid on that. So that I think in some ways it just kind of begets management of a wound as opposed to true healing of a wound. So, and there's a lot of nuance to that space. You're talking about folks that are in a wound center, maybe they're in a nursing home, home health, and everybody deals with a different payment system. It's non-congruent. So that's the challenge of doing it with the same group of people that I have today. The group of people I have today are very comfortable navigating, top floor to bottom floor in a hospital, all the way around that surgical suite. That's who we have today. So it's just a different call point, a little bit more nuanced in wound. The reason we're interested in it is just the size of that opportunity, and nobody's doing it. It's a first-in-class type of thought process on how we're going to approach it. Value-based is in the future. There's no denying it. I think it's something like some high percentage, which I won't quote because I don't know that number off the top of my head, but it's a high percentage of people already enrolled in an Advantage or capitated type of plan that's value-based. So it's coming, it'll be there, and I think a set of problems that wound faces needs it, because otherwise those, who's gonna cover that? You know, what insurance company will say, yeah, bring those patients to us? So I think that's why a value-based care system is gonna be really important in the future. And I just think we're out ahead of it. You know, we're gonna have to we're creating it ground up.
Yeah, for sure. And like you were saying, like you're selling, it's the same base IP, like High Call is just Celerate, like all of these different names are the same base IP that you're selling just into 2 different markets. And
process for the OR, sterilize for the OR, that's the magic, you know, because like if you took iodine, for example, you can't actually sterilize that. You can preserve it, and so that's the difference. And so, you know, going into the OR, you need a sterilized product for everybody to feel really comfortable, and that's why BioSurge is going to be significant related to the market, as well as the ability that you don't have to rinse it away at the end of the procedure is a big important part of it. There's just steps. You know, every minute in an OR is $100 or something like that. That's an approximation, but it's very expensive to do a surgery, and so they want to be quick, they want something effective, and they want to be out. You know, that's just kind of the way that works in surgery.
Yeah. Great. Are there any questions from the audience for Zach?
A few. You want to call them or? Oh.
Could you elaborate a little bit on your partnership with InfuSystem, why they're the right partner for the wound care market, and just expectations as it's rolled out?
Yeah. So InfuSystem, you know, they're known more for the infusion pumps, but they're very strong in that idea of a pump. They already have a lot of infrastructure associated that would be really supportive of a wound care program. They had a high interest in getting into negative pressure because of the pump business in cancer. And if you think about the cancer population, I kind of threw it up a couple slides ago. You know, the comorbidities that are on the right side, that would be also included there. It begets wounds. So they're already calling on a call point is very important. They're very tied into the systems. So when you do a product approval, there's 2 components, vendor approval and the actual product. So now they can go out and just add products to their contract, so it's a quick hit. So those were the main reasons we met with a great team, incredible team. They have a ton of you know, back office that will support billing. They'll support you know, servicing of machines, all of the payments, all that stuff. Very nice team that way. And again, access was really big. Expectations, we have started to work on that. You heard them talk quite a bit on their earnings call. And there have been some shows they've started to go to. They had to kind of recapitulate a team over there for specific wound care. They've done that, and then off they go. So we're excited about it. I think it's going to be, you know, like anything, it just takes a while to ramp. The negative pressure is a nice way to enter a facility. Everybody needs it. There's a nice billable around that, and it's a nice place to start your business.
It looks like you have a market opportunity of 3,000 hospitals. So far, you're only selling in 25%. What are you missing to go to that target? And then an extension to that, you're only in 33 states. Why?
Yeah, it's you'd love to hire everybody at once, right? It'd be everybody's wish, and you had that much money to be able to just hire everybody. And number 2 is you could identify great talent. We're not going to reduce our expectations of the hires. We're going to make sure that we hire at the level that we've always hired, and that takes time. When we started, first several, maybe 20 hires, 25 hires, I knew every one of them personally, and I knew how good they were, and it was like no invisibility to what they're going to be able to do. And then you start to have to go a little bit like one degree removed. So that's one reason. So when you talk about the deployment of 33 states, that's the biggest impactor there. We don't have people past 33 states. We will. That's definitely in the cards and in the plans. 950, I think that's a tremendous performance. And if you just looked at the increase, we're constantly pushing that up. Again, it's a process and it takes time. VAC committee approvals every 3 months typically. And so you got to get on the list, and then they got to review you, and you got to be prepared for the review, and hopefully you get through. I'd say we're over 90% batting average, or 900, I guess, in baseball, 900 batting average, but you still got to get in front of them, and sometimes it takes time to get in front of them. So it's a little bit of a slower process to get the access and to get in. So when we say 950, I feel real good about that. But again, it starts with where the people are deployed, very promotionally responsive, if you have them deployed there, and then the distributor and the doctors to support. And all that takes a little bit of time to build that network and that support. So when the VAC committee comes, we're 100%, we get in. So it's just a matter of time. I would also say, like of the 3,000, I don't have an exact number, but they're not all massively stricken with bad wounds. They're just not. Some are going to be more, some are going to be less. So I don't know if the goal will ever be to just maximize it. I hope we get 3,000 out of 3,000, but we might miss a few. There might be some that we just say, hey, that's not a good business opportunity, move on.
What percentage of your products require FDA approval, and has that ever been an issue?
No, has not been an issue, and all of them require that. Here, I'll go to the slide. But so if you look at the Celerate, Fortify products, Biform, that's all 510K. Biosurge, 510K regulatory approval. The other ones, anything that's related to human, goes through a approval or regulatory of 361, is the cellular products or human-based products. And they have to be minimally manipulated, and it's a much faster way to market, but again, it requires human processing to be able to get the tissue.
I would also just add 510K approval is much faster and easier than the traditional phase 1, 2, 3.
That's right.
None of the products have to go through the phase of clinical trials.
Right.
Zach, thank you. My name's Harrison Tuttle. I'm an orthopedic surgeon in Raleigh. I specialize in hand surgery. So let me preface my questions by saying I'm an owner of Sanara. I bought a couple years ago when Michael profiled it because I thought it sounded like a great product. But I've got some questions about really how it's used. When I bought into the company, I was under the impression it was something that was used primarily for wounds that were already open, patients who had a hard time healing the wounds. The way you presented this today, or at least the way I think Michael presented it, it was kind of mentioned as something that surgeons, my partners who do total hips, could just sprinkle in the wound as they close the wound. Is that really how you're selling this, or is this more for people who've had trouble, people with multiple medical problems?
We're cleared for surgical wounds, and we have to stay on label. So I think, if you're not medical, it's just a label issue and how you present it, how you promote it. And so we're clean to say surgical wounds. What we can't do is say, hey, you should close over it. That's the surgeon's decision. And so we let them make that decision. We don't promote that. It is a product that gets used that way a lot. It is some off-label use on that basis. But it's a gray area, right? Like it's a little bit of a potential gray area where what is a wound? Well, surgical wound, if you look up the definition, that's what it is. So, but no, it gets used on open wounds. It gets used on surgical wounds. It gets used chronic wounds, all of that for sure. And you're looking for debridement and then build up granulation and then epithelialization with that product.
So how is that different from, say, Integra?
Say that again.
How is this different from Integra?
Well, if you're talking about the bilayer dermal regeneration template, they're going to be really leaving that on for 3 weeks intact, and then let the wound declare and hopefully build a vascular tissue so that they can later graft. We would not be indicated that same way. That's not what our goal is, and they're going to remove that silicone later and then graft to it. This product is, while it could be used in that respect, that's not the promotion. It's on chronic wounds and or surgical wounds.
So, for example, the surgeon debrides the wound, cleans it out really well, sprinkles that in there, and does a primary closure.
Yes.
And it reduces the risk of dehiscence postoperatively.
Correct.
Gotcha. Yeah, that sounds great. I mean, it sounds like a pretty unique product.
It is, yeah. The big thing about it that I think, you as a surgeon would understand is, you don't want to create seroma, and it's a very fine granule. So it wouldn't, indicate a seroma, which seroma is just a pocket filled with, fluids and potentially a nidus for infection. So we don't want to do that. You don't want to put something in there that keeps the tissue so they're not approximating and having, intimate contact. You want them touching. So that's the nice thing about this product. And it's been used a whole lot, and a lot of white papers on that, and very successful in reduction because of the way it works. Collagen in general is chemotactic, adhesive, and it also allows for hemostasis. So we don't promote that way, but it's just a benefit that collagen provides, and you get that same thing here without having a potential pocket.
Right, and so, again, not trying to promote, but that sounds like a great product that's unique. Now, all these other products you have up there, they're already competitors on the market, at least the way I understand them.
You're right.
And so, I use things, I use Tino Glide instead of that Ford, So
Yep.
I don't know that you guys are in North Carolina. I'm not familiar with your products. But, for example, Tino Glide is something I use instead of Fortify.
Mm-hmm.
again, I'm happy to change what I use if it's cost efficient.
We'll come see you.
But the same thing with all the bone grafts. I mean, all of us kind of have what we go to.
That's right.
And so I guess my question to you is, you're kind of swimming upstream trying to have your reps push these products on surgeons who already have what they go to, their favorites. So my question is, how is your plan to supplant the surgeon's preference? Is it based on price, or are there unique characteristics of these products that are going to sell themselves?
Well, I think you hit it, surgeon preference. And so you present the product like we would present to you, just like I did when I went through these. And I think you're going to find that certain benefits of these products might appeal to you. And so, yeah, we're not going to win the entire market with ours. There's too many competitors, as you mentioned, on the bone bio. I think TRG is significantly different. It's the only US-based SIS that I'm aware of. Certainly what Cook presents is that they're the only US SIS. So both those products are very unique. Texigen, there's a lot of amnions, but again, it's bilayer. And we feel like if we can at least be a close second, there's an opportunity, because we've seen the benefits of these products. So when we go out, we just don't want our representatives selling one product, try to sell two, try to be there and available when the doctor says, I've got a problem with my Tenaglide, I'd like to try your product. And so that's happened a lot. And that's been the whole course of way we've sold it. Again, it's just kind of through experience. Those are always being used. So it's a very wide and significant market. And so we just want to be part of it.